Members, please take your seats. As a quorum is present, the subcommittee will come to order. The clerk will open the roll, and members are asked to indicate their presence on the electronic voting system. The clerk will close the roll. We have 11 bills in our DMV subcommittee docket for today. I will generally go in order in which you are listed on the docket, although I will reserve the right to hear bills from members of the subcommittee at the end of the meeting in an effort to ensure efficiency. We'll begin today's meeting with House Bill 219. Delegate Orrock.
Good morning, Madam Chairman. I'm the subcommittee. I'm going to make this pretty quick, I hope. When I'm done my presentation, I would welcome a motion to lay on the table with the understanding that the chairman of the full committee, I'll be working with her to draft a letter. But the issue I'm trying to address, I was at my local post office within the last year, and I noticed a couple folks over the several days, the registrations had been expired for a couple years or better. And being, the helpful gentleman in my community, I brought it to their attention. Surely they just forgot. And responses from both of the cases in particular said, well, we've done the math. And if our registration has expired for a year and a half or longer, even if I get a ticket, I'll have saved money compared to paying the annual registration fee. So we don't have any kind of a tiered system of penalty. The longer you go, the more money you save. And so that's what this bill is trying to address. I do think it's a little more complicated than we can address during the session, but it is something I think that state police and DMV need to look into, whether it's a tiered penalty system, whether it puts in place a 60-day grace period for no penalty, whatever it might be, their best option. But I think it is an issue we need to look at. So with that, Madam Chairman, I would welcome a motion unless there are questions.
The committee operates by motion.
Madam Chair, I would move that we lay this bill 219 gently on the table and ask that the chairman and yourself agree to a letter as the patron discussed.
Second.
The motion, having been seconded, is to lay House Bill 219 on the table with a letter from the chairman. The clerk will open the roll. The clerk will close the roll. House Bill 219 is gently laid on the table by a vote of 6-0 with the letter to come from the chair.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I'm subcommittee. I apologize I wasn't here last week, but thank you for taking it.
No worries. Thank you. Delegate Wyatt.
Good morning, Madam Chair and committee members. First bill I have before you is House Bill 1106. In 2021, the General, in session 2022, General Assembly passed a bill that required all dealers take a 4-hour, these are auto dealers, take a 4-hour in-person class as opposed to an online class. During that time, violations with the Motor Vehicle Dealer Board were through the roof, and they have drastically come down. And we do have experts here that work in that industry will share that sentiment with you as well. So, this bill, House Bill 1106, permits recertification. That is, independent auto dealers and auto dealers can go, rather than take that class, can go straight to the examination on their 2-year renewal. This bill will provide those who do not feel they need to take the class to opt out of it. $48 of the $50 received goes straight back to the Motor Vehicle Dealer Board. Of course, the Motor Vehicle Dealer Board is made up of dealers in the industry that regulate themselves. With that, there is the director of the Motor Vehicle Dealer Board is here, as well as representatives of the independent auto dealers as well, if you should have any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Delegate Wyatt. Are there any questions from the subcommittee? Seeing none, is there anyone in the room who wishes to speak in support of the bill?
Madam Chair, members of the committee, I'm Gonzalo Ida with the Virginia Independent Automobile Dealers Association, and we thank Delegate Wyatt for bringing this bill to give independent dealers another option to stay compliant and continue to serve their community. So we strongly support the bill. Thank you.
Thank you. We do not have anyone listed online here to speak in support of the bill. Is there anyone in the room who wishes to speak in opposition of the bill? Seeing none, and we do not have anyone online who wishes to speak in opposition to the bill. The subcommittee operates by motion.
Motion to report, Madam Chair.
Second. I'm sorry. There's a motion to report with a second. The clerk will open the roll. The clerk will close the roll. Bill reports 8-0. Delegate Wyatt, you have one other bill before the committee?
Yes, ma'am, Madam Chair. That is House Bill 1107. House Bill 1107 authorizes the Motor Vehicle Dealer Board to establish the cost of an examination of light to view or visit licensed dealer. The existing law pays for the examination. There are 12 inspectors across the Commonwealth in 6 different regions. There are over 3,300, 3,400 independent auto dealers, 3,500 independent auto dealers. So these inspectors go out during their office hours to view records, inspect these dealers unannounced. Many of them may not be there or have closed there for the day to gone. These could be small 1 or 2 employee dealers. So they do work with the dealer to warn them, allow them to be present. All they would ask, if they're not going to be there, the Motor Vehicle Dealer Board just ask them to inform them via email or some correspondence that they're not going to be there on that given day if they should have to be absent or not be open or present during their posted business hours. So this allows them to establish a cost or a fee for a field visit if the individual or the dealer is repeatedly not available for an inspection from the inspector of the Motor Vehicle Dealer Board.
Thank you, Delegate Wyatt. Are there any questions from the subcommittee? Seeing none, is there anyone here who wishes to speak in support of the bill? We do not have anyone listed online. Is there anyone here to speak in opposition to the bill? Seeing none, we do not have anyone listed online either. The committee operates by motion.
Madam Chair, I move to report.
Second.
The motion, having been properly seconded, is to report House Bill 1107. The clerk will open the roll. The clerk will close the roll. House Bill 1107 reports 8-0. Thank you, Delegate Wyatt.
Thank you, Madam Chair and committee members.
Next up, we have Delegate Lopez. I wasn't sure who wanted to go first.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the subcommittee.
Delegate Lopez, before you begin, I just wish to remind your colleagues that if they have substitutes or amendments, to please notify council down front prior to their bill presentation, as you have so diligently already done so.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I do have a substitute, and I'd like to, after it's moved, I'd like to explain it, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Delegate.
Should we move the substitute, or?
If you want to describe the substitute first, that'd be wonderful.
So after consultation with the DMV, we've amended the bill to ensure certain temporary duration IDs that are subject to Real ID and CDL standards remain pegged to the duration of an individual's authorization to stay. This was done to ensure compliance with federal law, and that's how and why we've made this substitute to the bill.
Would any subcommittee members wish to move the substitute? All those in favor? Any opposition? Hearing none, the substitute is before us. Thank you, Delegate.
Thank you, Madam Chair. When we passed the law that created driver privilege cards years ago, the goal was clear: ensure that Virginia's undocumented community could have consistent access to transportation and identity verification. And since then, we've made great strides on that front. There's one technical problem. Users of these cards are required to renew them every 2 years. We all know how laborious the process of renewing licenses and other documents can be. DMV has made strides in recent years to improve their service, but even just finding the time during the work week to go or having to wait during open hours on the weekends are tough. This is further evidenced by the fact that we have the DMV Connect Clinic that gets put up for us and our staff and the GAB during session. This extra benefit that makes our lives easier. Now, imagine having to go through that process 3 times as often as while having a job that probably does not give you paid time off and may not even give you weekends off. That's the challenge faced by Virginians with driver privilege cards. The lack of consistent authorization to drive limits economic opportunities and integration of immigrants in Virginia. It also serves as a major barrier for immigrants in reaching employment, government offices, and other essential locations. Based on 2021 American Community Survey data, there are over 1 million immigrants in Virginia, 13.6% of the population. Of the 230,000 undocumented Virginians, 84.9% are of working age. Many of these Virginians live in rural parts of the state where driving is essential to work and live in the Commonwealth. This bill and its companion in the Senate, Senator McPike's SB 246, addresses these issues by simply amending the sections relating to limited duration licenses and driver privilege cards so that they mirror the time duration of a regular driver's license, namely 7 years. This will save Virginia money and allow our undocumented community to participate in the economy and their communities to their full potential. Hope it's the will of the subcommittee to pass the bill.
Thank you, Delegate Lopez. Are there any questions from the subcommittee? Seeing none, is there anyone in the room who wishes to speak in support of the bill?
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the subcommittee. Sheila Herlihy with the Virginia Interfaith Center for Public Policy. We'd like to thank the patron for bringing the bill, and we would advocate its support. As the faith community, we believe that it is important for Virginia to be welcoming to immigrants and to create a space in which they can go about their lives as citizens do, and this bill is an important step forward in that process. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the subcommittee. My name is John Cano, Senior Supervisor Organizer with the Legal Aid Justice Center, and we support House Bill 1454, which extends the expiration of driver's privilege card and the time-limited duration license to match that of a driver's license. This is a crucial step in providing equal access and authorization to drive and valid identification access for driving for immigrants in Virginia. House Bill 1454 will not only benefit immigrants, but also Virginians by promoting inclusivity, economic growth, and safety on our roads. We ask the members of this committee to support this important legislation and for a more prosperous Commonwealth. Thank you.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the subcommittee. Tram Nguyen with New Virginia Majority. We thank Delegate Lopez for working with us on this issue for 10 years, almost 10 years now, and we strongly support this bill. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the subcommittee. I'm Freddie Mejia with the Commonwealth Institute. I just want to lend my support to the bill, and I hope that you do too. Thank you.
Good morning, Madam Chair. My name is Elenka Mendoza. I Executive Director, Dreamers Mothers in Action. I co-founded the Drive Virginia Forward. We support that bill because it's very important for our community immigrants. Thank you.
Good morning, Madam Chairwoman, members of the committee. My name is Monica Sarmiento, and I'm the Executive Director for the Virginia Coalition for Immigrant Rights. This, and not only for the undocumented community, but many refugee communities that would also not have access to driving, should be extended for the duress that having to renew your privilege card every 2 years adds undue burden, and everyone should be able to go ahead and be treated equally as other Virginia constituents. Thank you.
We do not have anyone listed online here to speak in support of the bill. Is there anyone in the room who is in opposition of the bill? Seeing none, we do not have anyone online in opposition either. The subcommittee operates by motion. Delegate McClure.
I'm sorry. Madam Chair, I thank the patron for bringing this crucial barrier-breaking bill forward, and I move to report.
Second. Okay. Delegate Wiley?
Madam Chair, if I may,
Yes.
and maybe I should ask this question earlier. Is the Deputy Commissioner, I mean, or anybody in this audience, do we have anybody from public safety or anybody to speak to this matter? Maybe the Deputy Commissioner spoke with the folks in that department just to get their feedback? Or did that not happen?
Seems like they didn't choose to so. So we have a motion and a second to report House Bill 1454. The clerk will open the roll. Oh, I'm sorry. To report with substitute. The clerk will close the roll. House Bill 1454 reports with substitute on a vote of 5-3. Thank you, Delegate Lopez.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the subcommittee.
Next up, we have Delegate Reed.
Madam Chair, members of the subcommittee, there are some amendments that have been provided to the clerk. These are line amendments.
So that we're all on the same page, we're talking about House Bill 1409.
Yes.
And Delegate Reed, would you like to describe those amendments while committee members have the chance to pull it up?
Yes, the first amendment occurs in line 18, which strikes the word maintain and then adds some much more specific language, again, to try to be more specific in the description. And then in line number 37, just simply strikes the word entity and is consistent and uses, and then adds in the word, service provider, which then makes that contracted service provider, which is a standard term in the code.
Thank you. Would anyone wish to make a motion to adopt the amendment?
So moved.
Second.
All those in support, please say aye. Opposition? Hearing none, they're appropriately before us. Delegate Reed, feel free to present House Bill 1409 with the substitutes.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
With the amendments.
Members of the subcommittee, as the bill is now before you, this bill has really two relevant pieces. One is the first, which would be to allow law enforcement agencies to be able to engage with a contracted service provider, as we've now clarified the definition in here, to either manage or disseminate police crash reports to entities or individuals who are already authorized in the statute, and to be able to keep that statutory fee. The current law only allows for DMV to be able to disseminate these reports, so this would allow law enforcement agencies to be added into this. And law enforcement would still be required to send the same reports to DMV, so that doesn't change. And what this also requires is that the contracted service provider would need to comply with all of the requirements for the that are applicable to the agency and the Government Data Collection and Dissemination Practices Act. So that basically provides for the protection of the private information that is currently being done by DMV, and requires the law enforcement agencies and the contracted service provider to maintain that protection of information. The second part, which is really the more simple part of this, is that currently there are 100 localities around the Commonwealth that are already sharing this information. And this goes to one of those things where many of the items that we address here are the fact that there are different agencies or law enforcement groups that are doing things because they believe that they've interpreted the code to allow them to do it. There's another 30 or so who don't believe that they can. So what this would do is this would just make it permissive and make it clear that this is an option for the other 30 localities to be able to do this as well. And so that is what the legislation does. And if there are any questions, then I'd be happy to entertain those. And I know that there are other people here who wish to speak in favor of the legislation.
Thank you, Delegate. Are there any questions from members of the subcommittee? Seeing none, is there anyone who wishes to speak in support of the bill?
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the committee. Chrissy Noonan with Reed Smith on behalf of Carfax and its subsidiary, Carfax for Police. Appreciate the patron working with us on this legislation, and also DMV for offering those clarifying amendments. We look forward to continuing to partner with local law enforcement to strengthen the Carfax vehicle database to better serve consumers when they purchase used vehicles. I think importantly on that second part of the bill, the second section, where it clarifies that law enforcement are able to share non-personally identifiable vehicle information. I just want to underscore that that really is information that goes with the vehicle. That is VIN level information. It is odometer information. It is the type of information that when you're shopping for a used car, you would want to know about. And I think one benefit of this legislation, if I may, is that currently DMV only gets crash reports if there's damage to the vehicle of $1,500 or greater. By going to the local law enforcement, Carfax or other contracted service providers are able to get information on vehicle damage that might be less than $1,500. And I don't know about you, but if I'm shopping for a used car, I want to know if there was $1,400 worth of damage to it. And we believe that information is safe and protected, given that it is non-personally identifiable and not able to be traced back to a person. So again, appreciate the patron, appreciate continuing to work with local law enforcement agencies on this, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Madam Chair, Bill Carrico with the Virginia State Police Association. We support the bill because State Police has area offices all through Virginia, and in rural areas, those area offices routinely get constituents that come by those area offices asking for DMV reports, and you have to direct them to the DMV office in order to do that. I think, I'm not speaking on behalf of the state police, but our 2,200 members, we have also staff members that are a member of our association that get these questions very often. I believe it's something that we could look at and contract through and allow our area offices to be able to do the same. So we do support the bill.
Thank you. We do not have anyone online in support of this bill. Is there anyone in the room in opposition of this bill? Seeing none, and we do not have anyone listed online. The subcommittee operates off a motion.
Madam Chair, I move to report with the amendments.
Second.
The bill has been appropriately moved and reported with amendments for, the bill has been moved and seconded to report House Bill 1409 with amendments. The clerk will open the roll. The clerk will close the roll. House Bill 1409 is reported with amendments on a vote of 8-0. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, members of the subcommittee.
Next up, we have Delegate Carr.
Thank you, Madam Chair. First bill, HB 1080. 1080 limits the license suspension period due to a motorist driving on a suspended or revoked license to a maximum of 10 years past the date of conviction for such violation. Sarah Wilson of Drive to Work is here to speak more to the bill. I hope the committee will look favorably upon this legislation.
Thank you, Delegate Carr. And thank you, committee members. This is an opportunity for efficiency and for managing the state's reputation. We have had cases where people go to court. They have a number of old cases. They cannot get a suspended license because nobody can find the case. The court system purges the case after 10 years, but it still appears on the DMV compliance summary or still on their record, so that when they try to restore their license, they can't because no one can find it. And then the clerk and the court calls DMV, I mean, it's just back and forth. This one case in particular, He got his restricted license for the judge in February, but he couldn't physically get it till July because of the back and forth among the parties because it was an old case. There was no record in the court. The poor court clerk worked so hard trying to help the person, but they didn't have the information. So to coincide the DMV system with the court system, this was deemed the most efficient way to do it because there's no direct system feed from the courts to DMV when the cases are purged. So this is just an easy way to systematically clean this up and help people restore their driving privileges.
Thank you. Do we have any questions from members of the subcommittee? Delegate Austin?
Madam Chair, I apologize. And who are you with? I apologize.
Hi, I'm Sarah Wilson, and I'm with Drive to Work. We help low-income and previously incarcerated people get their license back. We go all over the state, and this is an issue that is across the state.
Right, thank you. Madam Chair, follow-up question.
Delegate Austin?
Where does DMV stand on this issue? Are they in support of this, or what is their position on this matter? Thank you.
Good morning, Madam Chairman, members of the committee. The governor has not taken a position on this bill, but we have worked with the patron and Drive to Work on any technical issues and have resolved that. We have no concerns with how it would be implemented.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
And I would like to thank DMV. They were very helpful. In fact, this solution was out of DMV to how to become more efficient. So I want to thank them for their efforts.
Thank you. Is there anyone in the room who is here to speak in support of the bill? And we do not have anyone listed online. Is there anyone in the room who is here to speak in opposition of the bill? Seeing none, and we do not have anyone listed online, the subcommittee operates on a motion.
Madam Chair, I'd move to report.
Second.
The motion having been properly moved and seconded is to report House Bill 1080. The clerk will open the roll. The clerk will close the roll. House Bill 1080 is reported on a vote of 8-0. Delegate Carr, you have one other bill before the committee.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Next is HB 1084. This currently temporary disabled parking placards can be issued for a maximum of 6 months, even if the cause for the temporary disability is expected to exceed 6 months. Applicants are required to reapply and also pay a $5 fee. This bill doubles the maximum time for a placard that can be issued to 12 months, so long as certification from a healthcare provider affirms that the applicant's temporary qualifying condition will continue for the designated length of time. Rachel Jones, Deputy Secretary of Transportation, is here to answer specific questions and speak to the bill.
Thank you so much. Chair, Rachel Jones, Deputy Secretary of Transportation, and we want to thank the delegate for her leadership here. This is something that many members might not pick up because it looks like something small, but it really means a lot to many individuals who may be struggling with different, often temporary medical situations where they need temporary disabled placards. From a fees standpoint, this would apply to both temporary and permanent and take away that $5 fee. Not a huge number, but it certainly all adds up, especially for some of our more challenged individuals financially. But then I think the larger change is the change from a maximum of 6 month duration for temporary disabled placards to a full year. And the big difference here is trying to go back to your physician when you're in a place that you need those disabled placards, especially because it's largely for mobility reasons. Instead of being required to go back to your physician to get a new authorization for the same thing, this would allow physicians at the beginning, if they knew that this was a situation that you would need it, say, for 8 months or 9 months, this would allow DMV the flexibility to follow what the doctors are asking for and provide for a longer duration of these placards. So it's something that we think will lighten some of the burden just from an administrative standpoint with DMV, but also in particular for folks who are experiencing different needs from a medical standpoint for these temporary placards, that it'll save them a trip or two to the doctor and waiting in line at DMV. So we want to thank Delegate Carr for her leadership here and happy to answer any further questions.
Thank you. We do not have anyone listed online to speak in support of the bill. Delegate Zaire, you have a question before we go to opposition?
Yeah, just one question. Would the DMV still be, Madam Chair, if I could, would the DMV still be able to issue the 6-month duration?
Absolutely. So they can still issue something for 6 months. And I think in many instances, a physician may say, this is not something that, I will sign and authorize for longer because that is not the need. So shorter duration ones will still be applicable and we believe will still be utilized in many instances. But this simply allows for a longer duration with a maximum of a year if the physician in her or his medical opinion views that this would be the best approach.
Thank you.
Do we have anyone in the room who is here to speak in opposition of the bill? Seeing none, and we do not have anyone listed online, the subcommittee operates by motion. Delegate Anthony?
Madam Chair, I move to report.
Second.
The House Bill 1084 there's been a motion and a second to report House Bill 1084. The clerk will open the roll. The clerk will close the roll. House Bill 1084 reports on a vote of 8-0. Thank you, Delegate Carr.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee.
Next up, we have Delegate Sickles.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the committee. There is a substitute online for this disability bill. This bill, which is 1163, clarifies that the basis for DMV medical review should be based on an impairment that has an identifiable, articulable nexus to the individual's ability to safely operate a motor vehicle, not based on stereotypes about people with disabilities. The substitute would simply prevent having a disability from subjecting people to a DMV medical review. My staff has worked closely with DMV on the substitute, making sure that the word impairment is in here, and they might want to testify on this bill. The bill was brought on behalf of the Disability Law Center, and there was a feeling that the existing code language subjected Virginians to unnecessary medical reviews without the individual putting road safety into question. So it's a pretty simple bill. You can see the substitute and what it does. It strikes some language in the current code and inserts the term impairment on a couple places. And that is the bill, simple bill. And I hope the committee will look upon it favorably. And there might be people here to speak on the bill.
Wonderful. So before we hear testimony, we're going to move the substitute.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposition? The substitute is appropriately before us. And for those who are trying to follow along online, council has preloaded the substitute to LIS. Delegate Sickles has been very gracious in going ahead and describing his bill, so therefore we're happy to take testimony from those who are here in support of the bill. Feel free to step to the podium.
Good morning, Madam Chairwoman, members of the committee. My name is Charles Haig, and I live in Henrico County, and I strongly support this legislation. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We do not have anyone listed online in support of the legislation. Is there anyone here in opposition of the bill? Seeing none, and we do not have anyone listed online in opposition of the bill. The committee the committee operates off a motion.
Madam Chair, I move to report with the substitute.
Second.
House Bill 1163 has been moved and seconded to be reported with the substitute. The clerk will open the roll. The clerk will close the roll. House Bill 1163 is reported with a substitute. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee.
Delegate Runyon.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the committee. I have a pretty straightforward bill, House Bill 1224. It deals with special identification cards. It reduces some fees and makes it easier. This bill has some importance to me because I have a fair number of faith-based folks, Old Order Mennonites in my part of the world, that do not use photos. And so they need non-photo IDs, and this saves a little bit of money and has Department of Health on some vital records, and DMV negotiate those numbers and meet them. So happy to answer any questions. Ms. Ford is here from DMV if you would happen to have any questions as well.
Thank you, Delegate Runyon. Are there any questions from members of the subcommittee? Seeing none, is there anyone in the room who wishes to speak in support of the bill? Anyone? We do not have anyone listed online who wishes to speak in support of the bill. Is there anyone who wishes to speak in opposition of the bill in the room? Seeing none, and we do not have anyone listed online. The subcommittee operates on a motion.
Madam Chair, move to report.
Second.
A motion having been properly seconded is to report House Bill 1224. The clerk will open the roll. The clerk will close the roll. House Bill 1224 reports on a vote to 7-0 to 1.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee.
Delegate Cherry.
Madam Chair, members of the committee, I'll direct your attention to House Bill 1469, and I do have a small technical amendment to that that has been released.
Anyone wish to move the amendment?
Madam Chair, I move the amendment.
Second.
Second.
All those in support, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposition? Hearing none, the amendment is before us.
Madam Chair, members of the committee, House Bill 1469 comes at the request of my local Commonwealth attorney, and it was amended at the request of DMV. What it deals with is when people obtain forged documents and then take them to DMV in order to obtain driving permits, or if they have had to take a class or something and to get their license back or get points taken off their license. All it does is provide that you attach jurisdiction to where the documents are submitted. So what happened, we had people that were creating forged documents in Colonial Heights. They were then turned into DMV in Fairfax. And so they did not know where to attach the prosecution of that crime. So this just gives a venue for when the crime is committed, which is when they're submitted to DMV. Simple bill.
Thank you, Delegate Cherry. Are there any questions from the subcommittee? Delegate Wiley?
No, ma'am.
Oh. Is there anyone in the room who wishes to speak in support of the bill? We do not have anyone listed online. Is there anyone in the room who wishes to speak in opposition of the bill? Seeing none, and we do not have anyone listed online in opposition, the subcommittee operates on a motion.
Motion report.
Second.
With
amendments.
The motion having been properly seconded is to report House Bill 1469 as amended. The clerk will open the roll. The clerk will close the roll. House Bill 1469 reports with the amendment.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the commission.
Delegate Austin, you're welcome to present from here at the dais.
Madam Chair, I thank you kindly. I have before this committee today House Bill 191, and that's a sale of a franchise bill. Madam Chair, there's been a lot of work on this bill, and basically, well, I have a substitute, Madam Chair. Let me start there.
Madam Chair, I move to substitute.
Second.
Okay.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Those in opposition? Hearing none, the substitute is before us.
Okay. Thank you, Madam Chair. The substitute is a product of discussion between auto dealers and the manufacturers. It is intended to improve predictability and objectivity for the franchise buy-sell process. Predictability is addressed by establishing clear notice requirements triggering a 60-day review. This notice includes applicant's name, address, finance qualifications, and business experience during the previous 5 years. The second thing is a certification that the application meets the standards otherwise established by the title to be a dealer. And the third issue is a copy of a full agreement for the proposed transaction in the form of existing as of the date of notice. Additional information may be required from the dealer, and the dealer must provide it in 10 full days. If the manufacturer is not objected in 60 days, the sale is automatically approved. Current law outlines the reasons a manufacturer may oppose the sale of a dealership. One reason is that the buyer does not have the necessary qualifications. Under the bill, this review will be more objective. Understand that there's peace in the valley, and it's a pleasure to the committee to report the bill. With us today is Ralston with the Auto Dealers Association and Attorney Greg Habib. If you have any technical questions about how this contract has been drawn up and the conclusions reached by both the manufacturers and the Dealers Association. Madam Chair, thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Madam Chair, members of the subcommittee, Ralston King with Virginia Auto Dealers Association. Thank the patron for bringing forward the legislation. We have worked with a variety of different manufacturers and come to a good compromise. What I will say is this is a serious issue. As there's consolidation in the industry, we are seeing buy-sell transactions in Virginia consistently over the last few years, and we've had some issues. We've had some manipulation of the statute. We've had some problems with the time frame, which is really critical, and that's our predictability piece. The second piece is objectivity. We've seen a particular word in the legislation that we've had to strike. The statute allowed for qualifications, and that has been manipulated over time, and we've seen statistics that have been cherry-picked, and it's been very frustrating for the buyer and the seller. We ask that you endorse the legislation, and we thank all the parties for working together. I will turn it over to Greg Habib if you'll indulge him for just a minute, as he, as an attorney, has worked on these cases and can share some evidence with the legislation. Thank you.
Madam Chair, members of the subcommittee, Greg Habib with Gentry Lock. Appreciate you taking a moment to hear this bill. I do work with the Virginia auto dealers, but in my day job, I represent auto dealers in buy-sell agreements and litigation. For those of you new to this subcommittee, those of you who've been here for a while know, every year or two or so often, you'll see a small tweak brought to the Franchise Act. The Franchise Act governs those relationships between franchisees and franchisors. And we don't make those changes in some kind of academic sense. We really try to address real-world situations. And so the law as it exists today anticipates these transactions taking about 90 days. That's the way the law is written. That seemed to be a reasonable period of time for these transactions, and it brings predictability. What we've seen recently is manufacturers in the buy-sell process will continually request additional information, which allows that 90 days to drag out in perpetuity. We've seen some deals in Virginia stretch out as far as a year. And when you have two businesses trying to sell, you have employees' lives at stake, you have people looking to make a living, you need that predictability. So what this does, and we appreciate the manufacturers agreeing to this language, it really tightens that up to a fixed 60 days while providing the opportunity to request additional information. We think that closes an important hole in the statute. The other issue which Delegate Austin addressed and Mr. King addressed as well is that this word qualifications as a basis to accept or reject a franchisee. The problem with that language is it's very subjective. And so because qualifications isn't defined, what we've seen is manufacturers who either want to deny a deal or want to try to negotiate something from the proposed franchisee they may not otherwise be able to negotiate, will use that qualifications language. I'll give you an example. We had a deal in 2023, a dealership out of North Carolina, had been in existence about 70 years. They had about 60 dealerships, one of the biggest and best dealerships on the East Coast. They were denied a new franchise based on, quote, qualifications, because arguably their sales during COVID at one of their stores didn't meet what this manufacturer wanted to say
were qualifications. The statute was never intended to have one subjective phrase that could consume the whole statute. And so by eliminating that and focusing on years of experience, it brings objectivity to the process. So we have predictability and objectivity. The original bill as filed also had an accountability provision in it. It had some enhanced damages if a manufacturer violated the statute. In negotiations with the manufacturers, that language was taken out. The hope is that we don't have to come back next year and ask that accountability provision be put back in. The hope is that clarifying the predictability and the objectivity provisions will be all that it takes. And we appreciate you doing this. This is an important bill to really help these significant transactions move in an expedited fashion. Thank you for your time, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Let's just formalize it. Is there anyone who wishes to speak in support of the bill? Are you here for technical?
Madam Chair, members of the subcommittee, Fred Helm on behalf of the Alliance for Automotive Innovation. It's the association that represents all the manufacturers. I just wanted to mention we do have Peace in the Valley. We appreciate the VADA working with us to get some amendments to this bill. I would say, these buy-sell agreements are complicated and they're super important, obviously, to the manufacturers. This is a partnership. Both parties need each other. And frankly, the word qualifications, yes, they look into qualifications of who buys these dealerships. It's complicated. They are long-term arrangements. But I appreciate, we appreciate the work that was done to get some amendments made. And hopefully this provides the clarity of process and timing that they were seeking. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay, let's formally open it up for those. Delegate Austin?
I just want the privilege to speak at the end about it.
Okay. Is there anyone in the room who wishes to speak in support of the bill? We do not have anyone listed online. Is there anyone who wishes to speak in opposition of the bill? We do not, seeing none, we do not have anyone listed online either. Delegate Austin?
Yes, Madam Chair, I thank you. As with any of this legislation that I carry, I always encourage both sides to work together to find a conclusion. This is a complex issue. It's understood that this is a complex issue, but it's also understood that the dealers employ a lot of individuals throughout the Commonwealth, and we very much appreciate that. We appreciate the manufacturers, but I most importantly appreciate the two sides working together to find peace in the valley and a path forward for this legislation. So, Madam Chair, I would ask the committee to look favorably upon reporting this bill. Thank you.
Thank you. The subcommittee operates on a motion.
Motion report. I think you have a substitute. With substitute.
With substitute. The motion, having been properly seconded, is to report House Bill 191 with the substitute. The clerk will open the roll. The clerk will close the roll. House Bill 191 reports with substitute.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
And our final bill for the day comes from yours truly. So therefore, I am going to pass over the rights of serving as chair of the subcommittee to Delegate McQuinn.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Delegate Sewell. At this time, if you would, House Bill 1526, if you would share with us, explain that, please.
Thank you, Delegate McQuinn. We have House Bill 1526, overweight trucks for electric co-ops. I have a substitute.
I'm going to have a motion to move the substitute.
I move the substitute.
Second.
Thank you. Motion is made, properly second. All in favor? Aye. Thank you.
And this substitute makes minor technical changes based on feedback we received from the Virginia Department of Transportation. One, it clarifies that these overweight vehicles covered in the legislation would not be allowed to cross posted bridges nor operate on interstate at a higher weight. And two, it applies the reduced speed requirement for those overweight vehicles to all highways with speed limits over 30 miles per hour. So operating on roads with speed limits posted at 35, 40, 45, 50, 55, and above 55 miles per hour would be subject to the reduced speed requirement. And under the current bill, the reduced speed limit would only apply to roads that have a speed limit of 35, 45, and 55. So briefly speaking to the bill, I just simply want to note that during a power outage with the current weight limits in place, electrical co-ops only have the ability to load 2 poles and the associated equipment needed to install those poles because of the weights of the poles. And this means that for a job that requires 4 poles, they must send 2 trucks with crews just to transport those poles. And if this bill passes, electrical co-ops can load 3 or 4 poles into a single truck with the same set of equipment and 1 crew to accomplish that restoration, speeding up the process. And this frees up the other truck and crew to go and restore power elsewhere in a timely fashion. So to reiterate and just to highlight what the bill does, currently the limit on a utility truck's single axle is 20,000 pounds. Electrical utilities are in danger of soon exceeding the current legal truck weight limits due to increased pole heights and therefore weights. And with equipment weights and all the other items which may be loaded on a particular truck, this increase is needed to strengthen and maintain our grid. And this forces utility trucks to make multiple trips to stay within those weight limits. And as demand on electric infrastructure grows, including broadband deployment and vehicle electrification, more and more of these new poles and transformers will be needed to be installed. And this legislation is actually created in alignment with an exception that already exists in Arlington County for trucks, and therefore we utilize that language. As these poles, each individual pole has experienced an increase in weight from 400 to 600 pounds.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Delegate. Chair, are there any questions at this time from the subcommittee?
Yes, Delegate, thank you. And
Delegate Wiley.
I just thank you. I just wanted to thank the Madam Chair for carrying this bill. I did speak with my local co-ops, and they do appreciate this. This makes them more efficient and certainly on calls, and getting broadband to our rural areas is very important. And I appreciate her bringing this forward. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Delegate Wiley. Any other questions from the subcommittee? Okay, at this time, we'll open for the audience to speak in support of the bill. Good morning.
Hi, good morning, Madam Chair, members of the committee. My name is Lindsay Watson. I'm with Rappahannock Electric Cooperative. We want to thank the chairwoman for carrying this bill. It would apply to the electric co-ops as well as our partners at Dominion and Appalachian Power as well. As you know, the components that we use to restore the grid, repair, strengthen, maintain are getting heavier and larger. So this would allow us to be much more efficient with our crews and our manpower, keep costs low, and continue to provide very reliable power. And we would ask that you support the bill. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning. How y'all doing? I appreciate y'all having us. I think Ms. Sewell explained it a lot better than I can. I don't know why we're here, but I'm with Mecklenburg Electric. My name is Ray DeJarnett. I take care of the fleet and the right-of-way with Mecklenburg. Our service territory includes Greenville County, Brunswick County, Mecklenburg, Charlotte County, parts of Lunenburg, Halifax, and Pennsylvania. So we have land in Carolina. You got to go into Carolina to get back to it, thanks to the lakes. So we're a long way from our service territories when you have outages. And support of this bill would allow us to make less trips around, because we're skating on the edge now with weight limits. It's been an area of concern for us for a while. But we've kicked this can down the road as long as we can, and we'd certainly appreciate your support on it. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone online who's in support? Is there anyone in opposition of this bill? Anyone online in opposition?
No one's listed.
Okay, at this time then, we will have a motion from the subcommittee.
Madam Chair,
Motion
move
second.
to report with substitute.
Okay.
Second.
Motion has been made and properly second with a substitute. We can, at this time, vote. turn the gavel back over to you. Okay. The report, the bill, House Bill 1526 report with the substitute 8-0. Ask the clerk to close the roll, please.
Thank you, Delegate McQuinn. As there's no further business before the subcommittee, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Madam Chair, so moved. Second.
There's been a motion and a second to adjourn. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those in opposition? Meeting is adjourned.